Hello everyone, welcome to the Comcern podcast where we unpack political, social, economic and cultural stories shaping our world. I'm Emmanuel Taban. Now, we might have all noticed that in the last week there has been an intensified tensions between the forces that belongs to the SSPDF, the South Sudan People's Defense Forces, under the government and President Kiir, and forces of the South Sudan People's Liberation Army in opposition that belongs to the SPLA-IO and loyal to mainly Vice President or first Vice President Riek Machar. And this tension has mainly affected the northern states of Jonglei and Upper Nile. And we've had stories about counties like Robe Corner, countries like Ward County, counties like Uror. I mean, all these have been affected, even Akobo and Uror and all this. And I think these clashes that happen between the forces loyal to President Kiir or the government, and then the one loyal to the SPLA-IO and Machar, have engaged in this different fight simply, I feel, because the opposition seems to have lost trust in President Kiir being capable of actually taking the country through the transitional period and having good intentions and will for the country. And that seems to have actually completely gotten erased from their mind. And they seems to have just place their mind believing that there's nothing else President Kiir can do. And that's why last week we had stories about forces loyal to that belongs to the South Sudan Opposition Alliance defecting to the SPLA-IO, and a general or a couple of generals declaring their allegiance to the SPLA-IO, and all these kind of stories, which looks a little bit scary, because when we look back in history and see how the 2013, the 2016 conflict emerged, it started in this manner, in a very small defect zone, and some selective areas where the forces engaged in exchange of clashes, and after that, then it escalated and it got into a nationwide kind of conflict. So, but I hope that this is not going to be a repeat of 2016, a repeat of 2013. And one of the most affected areas out of all these tensions that happened last week is Uror County of Jonglei State. So in Uror County, on the 2nd of January, there was a huge clashes between the forces of the SSPDF and the forces that belongs to the SPLA-IO. And the forces that belongs to the SPLA-IO attacked the forces of the SSPDF in UI, which is an administrative area of Uror County in Jonglei State. And that area was initially under the control of the SSPDF, but then after the attack that actually lasted almost for I think 8 hours in that specific area, then the SPLA-IO forces captured that place and they took over control of it. And the impact is huge because one, we had almost 70 people killed, 70 SSPDF soldiers, including civilians, were killed on the 2nd, during that clashes in Uror County that happened between the SSPDF and the forces that belongs to this SPLA-IO. But also, apart from the dead bodies, there were thousands of people who got displaced. About 7,000 people got displaced to the neighboring counties of Duke County. And one interesting thing is also that the commissioner of Uror County had to be evacuated, and simply because the condition was huge, so he had to be evacuated as the SPLA-IO forces took control of Uror, or that specific army barracks that was in Uyai of Uror County. And also, because of the displacement, because of the scale of the violence that happened during that day, thousands of people were displaced and they were affected. There was huge humanitarian crisis in that specific area, since the civilians, had no access to clean water. Some of them had no access to shelter, and they ran to the neighboring counties of Duke County. They were settled in areas like Pandey and of Duke County, and yeah. But I feel that this is a very, very big signal to South Sudanese and mainly to our leaders, because if we read from the script of 2013, if we read from how things started in 2016, the situation that is happening or that happened last week, of which could even intensify in the next few days, could be a repeat, or it has a potential of giving us the same situation that happened in 2013 and 2016, of which I think majority of us don't want to see that. Majority of South Sudanese don't want to see that. And when we look at some of these clashes that happen between the forces loyal to the SPLA-IO and then the forces to the government or the SSPDF, I mean, it is out of very simple issues that could actually be resolved. But I feel like there is lack of political will, complete lack of political will from both sides, the SPLA-IO, but also the SPLA in government. And I feel that just like I mentioned at the start, that the SPLA-IO seems to have just gotten themselves into a very timid belief that President Kiir has no will whatsoever of taking the country through a peaceful transitional period, and he intends to stay in power, and also that he is trying to humiliate Machar, of which majority of them are loyal to. And I feel that most of these SPLA-IO generals and forces are very angry because of Machar being kept in detention for quite long, and for reasons that majority of them believe are not real. And also when we look at the current developments that are happening, just like what happened last evening, where President Kiir removed some of the ministers that belong to SPLA-IO. This can easily tell us that things could even get worse in the next few days. I'm not scaring people. I'm not trying to beat the drums of war, but it is possible that removing these people, as I said, that when the president removes certain people and places a new crop of people in this position, he's creating more enemies and at the same time friends. So the removal of these ministers that belong to the SPLA-IO without even the consent of the SPLA-IO leadership, it's only going to anger them more and more and more. And yeah, so this is mainly an update of what happened in Uror County of Jonglei State, specifically in UI administrative area, where the forces loyal to the first Vice President Machar and SPLA-IO engaged with the forces of the SSPDF, and they took over control of Uror County, killing 70 people, or 70 SSPDF soldiers, including civilians, and thousands of them displaced, and hundreds left under critical humanitarian crisis. That is an update that I feel like bringing you today. Thank you for watching. Until next time, I'm Emmanuel Taban, and this is the Comcern Podcast. On our business section for today, are you a South Sudanese parent living in Uganda who desires to preserve your child's national identity, cultural values, and academic continuity without sending them back to South Sudan? Then worry no more. Excel International School proudly offers South Sudanese families in Uganda the opportunity to access the South Sudan national curriculum in a secure, nurturing, and academically enriching environment right in Uganda. As you pursue stability and opportunity in Uganda, your children can continue their education seamlessly following the South Sudan syllabus, guided by qualified, experienced teachers who understand both the academic standards and cultural foundations of South Sudan. At Excel, they deliver genuine South Sudan curriculum, strong moral and academic foundation, experienced and culturally grounded educators, safe and supporting learning environment, and convenient campuses both in Kampala and Arua. For the Kampala campus, they are located at Zambia opposite the American Embassy, or you can contact the principal at 077-168-2831 or 074-2288-712. And the Arua campus is located at Adalafu in Uror City, or you can contact the management at 077 34 98 768. Admission for the 2026 and registration for the 2026 academic year is ongoing. Parents are encouraged to register early as places are limited. Give your children an education that connects them to home, heritage, and hope without borders. Excel International School. Fear God to excel.